The woman stumbled into Parowan, Utah on a blistering August afternoon in 1882, her dress torn at the hem and dust, coating every inch of her like a second skin. She collapsed against the wooden post outside the general store, her chest heaving, dark hair plastered to her face with sweat. Lucas Irving had been loading supplies onto his wagon when he saw her fall, and something in the desperate way her eyes scanned the street behind her made him move without thinking. "Madam." He crossed the distance in 3 long strides, catching her elbow before she could slide to the ground. "You hurt?" Her eyes locked on his, wild and calculating all at once. "I need to leave. Now. Do you have a horse?" Lucas had lived 31 years on this earth, the last 15 working cattle ranches across Utah and Nevada, and he had learned when not to ask questions. The bruises on her wrist, barely visible beneath the grime, told him enough. "I have a wagon. Can you walk?" She nodded, though her legs trembled. He guided her to the wagon bed, helping her up among the sacks of flour and cornmeal. "Lie down flat. Cover yourself with that tarp." "Why are you helping me?" Her voice cracked on the last word. "Because you need it." He threw the canvas over the supplies, concealing her completely, then climbed onto the driver's seat. His ranch was 12 miles northeast, up in the foothills where the land turned rocky and wild. He clicked his tongue at the horses, and they started forward at a steady pace, not too fast to draw attention, not too slow to waste time. Lucas kept his eyes on the road, but his mind churned with questions he would not voice. The woman had come from the east, running hard enough to near collapse in the summer heat. Someone would likely come looking. He thought of his ranch, isolated and defensible, built against a red rock cliff with clear sightlines in every direction. He had chosen the location for the grazing land and the natural spring, but now he was grateful for its remoteness. 20 minutes outside town, he heard hoofbeats behind them. 3 riders moving fast. Lucas did not slow down or speed up, just kept the wagon rolling steady. When the men drew alongside, he recognized the type immediately. Hired guns, probably out of California based on their fancy rigs and pearl-handled revolvers. "You see a woman come through?" the lead rider asked. He had a scar running from his temple to his jaw and eyes that had gone dead long ago. "Just left town myself." "What did she do?" "That is not your concern. Dark hair, green dress, pretty thing. You see her, you let the sheriff know." Lucas met his gaze without flinching. "Sure thing." The men spurred their horses forward, dust rising in their wake. Lucas waited until they disappeared around a bend before pulling the wagon off the road into a dense cluster of juniper trees. He climbed into the back and pulled the tarp aside. The woman stared up at him, her face pale. "They will kill me if they find me." "They will not find you." He offered his hand. "Lucas Irving, I run cattle about 8 miles north of here." She hesitated, then took his hand. Her fingers were slender but calloused, the hands of someone who had known work. "Zara Miller." "Is that your real name?" A ghost of a smile crossed her face. "Does it matter?" "No, madam, it does not." He helped her sit up. "Those men are going to search every ranch and farm within 50 miles. We need to make you look different." Back on the road, Lucas kept the horses moving at a steady trot. The sun beat down mercilessly, the temperature well over 90 degrees. Zara sat beside him now, wrapped in one of his spare shirts, her dark hair tucked under his work hat. To anyone at a distance, she might pass for a ranch hand. "Thank you," she said quietly. "I do not understand why you are doing this, but thank you. Everyone deserves a chance to start over." He glanced at her profile, noting the elegant line of her nose, the stubborn set of her jaw. "My ranch is not much, but it is safe. You can stay as long as you need. I can work. I am not asking for charity." "Did not figure you were." He paused. "Those men will not give up easy." "I know." Her voice was flat, exhausted. "They never do." Lucas's ranch appeared as the sun started its descent toward the western horizon. The main house was built of logs and local stone, modest but sturdy, with a covered porch and real glass windows he had hauled all the way from Salt Lake City. A barn stood 50 yards away, and beyond that, the grazing land stretched toward the mountains. Perhaps 300 head of cattle dotted the landscape, their dark forms stark against the golden grass. "It is beautiful," Zara said, and there was genuine surprise in her voice. "It is home." Lucas pulled the wagon up to the house. "I have a spare room. Not fancy, but it has a bed and a door that locks from the inside." She looked at him sharply. "You live here alone?" "Just me and my ranch hand, Tom. He is up in the high pasture with the summer herd, will not be back for another week." Lucas climbed down, then helped her from the wagon. "I will bring your things inside." "I do not have any things." The simple statement held a world of loss. Lucas nodded. "Then we will get you some. For now, you can use whatever you need from the house." Inside, the main room was clean and sparsely furnished. A stone fireplace dominated one wall, and handmade furniture filled the space with practical comfort. Lucas showed her to the spare bedroom, which held an iron frame bed, a washstand, and a trunk. "My sister stayed here once, about 2 years back. I think she left some clothes in that trunk. You are welcome to whatever fits." He set a pitcher and basin on the washstand. "I will heat some water so you can wash up. Are you hungry?" Zara sank onto the edge of the bed, and suddenly she looked very young and very tired. "I have not eaten since yesterday morning. I will make something." He moved toward the door, then paused. "Zara, I meant what I said. You are safe here. Whatever you are running from, whoever those men are, they will have to go through me to get to you." Her eyes filled with tears, though she blinked them back fiercely. "You do not even know me." "I know enough." He left her then, closing the door softly behind him. In the kitchen, Lucas stoked the fire in the cast iron stove and set about making a simple meal of beans, salt pork, and cornbread. As he worked, his mind returned to the men on the road. Professional hunters, the kind who got paid well to track people down. Whatever Zara had done or witnessed, it was serious enough for someone to spend serious money bringing her back. Not his business, he reminded himself. He had meant what he said about not asking questions. Everyone had a past, and most people's pasts were none too pretty when you looked close. What mattered was what a person did now, today, with the choices in front of them. He heard the door open behind him and turned to find Zara standing in the doorway. She had washed and changed into a simple blue dress that must have belonged to his sister. It fit reasonably well, if a little loose in the shoulders. Her dark hair hung wet down her back, and without the dust and fear, he could see she was younger than he had first thought. Mid-20s, perhaps, with fine features and those striking green eyes that seemed to see straight through him. "It smells wonderful," she said. "It is just beans." But he smiled as he said it, and she smiled back, tentative and real. They ate at the wooden table, the silence comfortable rather than awkward. Lucas watched her eat with the single-minded focus of someone who had known real hunger, and he made sure to serve her generous portions. Outside, the light faded to purple and orange, painting the mountains in shades of fire. "Tell me about the ranch," Zara said finally. "How long have you been here?" 3 years. "I worked other people's cattle for 12 years before that, saved every penny I could. When this land came available, I bought it and never looked back." He leaned back in his chair. "It is hard work, but it is mine. That must be a good feeling." "The best." He studied her face. "What about you? What kind of work did you do before?" She stiffened slightly, then seemed to make a decision. "I was a bookkeeper in San Francisco. I am good with numbers." I cannot go back there." She said it firmly, closing that door. Whatever I was before, I am something different now. Lucas nodded. Fair enough. If you are good with numbers, I could use the help. My books are a mess. I am better with cattle than ledgers. You would trust me with your accounts. You asked for work. I am offering it. Something shifted in her expression, a tension releasing. Then yes, I would like that very much. Over the following days, they fell into a routine. Lucas worked the ranch, mending fences and checking on the cattle that grazed the lower pastures. Zara took over the household accounts, organizing his chaotic collection of receipts and notes into proper ledgers. She also insisted on earning her keep by cooking and helping with the endless chores that came with ranch life. Lucas found himself looking forward to meals, to the sound of her voice reading aloud the figures she had tallied, to the way she hummed while she worked. She was careful never to touch him, always maintaining a proper distance, but sometimes he would catch her watching him with an expression he could not quite read. On the fourth day, riders came. Lucas spotted the dust cloud from the porch and immediately went inside. Zara, the room. Now. She went pale but moved quickly, disappearing into the spare bedroom and locking the door as he had instructed. Lucas checked his rifle, then stepped onto the porch to wait. The sheriff from Peril rode up with 2 deputies, looking tired and irritated. Lucas, got to ask you some questions. Ask away, Sheriff. Those men from California are still looking for a woman. They got a federal warrant, claims she witnessed a murder and ran before she could testify. You see anyone matching her description? Lucas kept his face neutral. Dark hair, green dress. That is what the hired guns asked me about the other day. Have not seen anyone like that, the sheriff sighed. They are offering a $500 reward. That is a lot of money, Lucas. It is. He met the sheriff's eyes steadily. But I have not seen her. Mind if we look around? I mind. Lucas crossed his arms. Unless you got a warrant, you can turn around and ride back to town. One of the deputies bristled. You got something to hide. I have got a ranch to run and work to do. I do not have time to waste on wild goose chases. Lucas kept his tone even but firm. If I see this woman, I will let you know. That is all I can tell you. The sheriff studied him for a long moment, then nodded. All right, but those California men are not going to be as polite. Watch yourself. They rode away, and Lucas waited until they were completely out of sight before going to Zara's door. They are gone. She emerged shaking. Federal warrant. That is what they said. Is it true? Did you witness a murder? Zara wrapped her arms around herself, staring at the floor. When she spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. I witnessed my husband murder 3 people. When I tried to go to the police, they told me my husband was a powerful man and I should keep quiet, so I ran. Lucas felt something cold settle in his chest. Your husband? Yes. She looked up at him, and her eyes were full of pain. Edward Morrison. He owns half the mining operations in California and has judges and politicians in his pocket. He cannot let me live because I know what he did. He will never stop looking for me. Morrison. Lucas had heard the name. Everyone had. Mining magnate, philanthropist, friend to senators and governors. Does he know you came to Utah? I do not think so. I went north first, then doubled back. But those men, they are thorough. They will search everywhere eventually. Lucas moved to the window, thinking. $500 is a lot of money. People will talk, people will look. We need to make you disappear completely. How? He turned to face her. We get married. Zara stared at him. What? A married woman takes her husband's name. You would be Zara Irving, wife of a rancher nobody ever heard of. Those men are looking for Zara Miller or Zara Morrison. They are not looking for a married woman living quietly on a ranch in the middle of nowhere. That is insane. You cannot marry someone you barely know just to protect them. Can and will if you are agreeable. Lucas crossed his arms. Look, I am not asking for a real marriage, just a legal document and shared quarters for anyone who comes snooping. You keep the spare room, I keep mine, and nobody is the wiser. When this blows over, we can get it annulled quietly." Zara turned away, her hands gripping the edge of the table. "Why would you do this? Risk everything for a stranger?" "Because it is the right thing to do." He kept his voice gentle. "And because in the past week you have become less of a stranger and more of a friend." "I do not have so many friends that I can afford to lose one," she laughed, but it came out more like a sob. "You are either the best man I have ever met or the craziest. Probably both." He moved closer but did not touch her. "Zara, I am not your husband. I am not going to hurt you or trap you or expect anything from you. This is just a way to keep you safe, that is all." She was quiet for a long moment, then nodded. "All right. Yes, if you are sure, I am sure." They rode to Parowan the next morning, early enough that few people were about. The justice of the peace was an old prospector named Henderson, who had found religion and a steady job in his declining years. He performed the brief ceremony without much fuss, declaring them man and wife with a bored efficiency that suited Lucas just fine. Walking out of the courthouse with a marriage certificate in his pocket felt surreal. Zara walked beside him, her hand tucked formally into the crook of his elbow, and for just a moment he let himself imagine this was real, that she had chosen him not out of desperation but out of genuine affection. Foolish thought, he pushed it away. "We should stop at the general store," Zara said. "If we are supposed to be newlyweds, I should have more than one dress." "Good thinking." Lucas guided her across the street. Inside, the proprietor's wife fussed over them, delighted by the news of their marriage and eager to help outfit the new bride. By the time they left, Zara had 3 new dresses, a proper coat, underthings, and a pair of sturdy boots. "That was expensive," Zara murmured as they loaded the packages into the wagon. "It was necessary." Lucas helped her up onto the seat. "Besides, you have been working. Consider it your wages." They rode back to the ranch in comfortable silence. The August heat had broken slightly, and clouds gathered over the mountains, promising rain. Lucas found himself acutely aware of Zara beside him, the way the wind played with the loose strands of her hair, the way she sat up straight and alert, always watching. That night after dinner, she showed him the books she had organized. "You made a profit of nearly $800 last year, but you could do better. Some of your contracts are paying below market rate, and you are buying feed at premium prices when you could source it cheaper from the Morrison Ranch near Cedar City." "Morrison?" Lucas raised an eyebrow. "Different Morrison. No relation, I checked." She ran her finger down a column of numbers. "If you renegotiate these 3 contracts and switch feed suppliers, you could increase your profit by at least 20%. Lucas studied the neat figures, impressed despite himself. "You really are good at this." "I told you I was." There was a hint of pride in her voice. "My father was a banker. He taught me to read a ledger before I could read a book." "What happened to him?" The pride faded. "He died when I was 17. That is when I married Edward. I thought I needed someone to take care of me." She closed the ledger sharply. "I was wrong." Lucas wanted to ask more, but the set of her shoulders told him to leave it alone. Instead, he said, "Thank you for this, for all of it. You did not have to work so hard." "Yes, I did." She looked at him directly. "You gave me something I had not had in years, Lucas. You gave me a choice. The least I can do is make sure your ranch prospers." Something in her gaze made his chest tight. He looked away, clearing his throat. "Well, I appreciate it. Good night, Zara." "Good night." Tom returned from the high pasture 3 days later, a grizzled man in his 50s who had worked ranches all his life. He took the news of Lucas's marriage with a raised eyebrow and a knowing look, but asked no questions. Lucas valued that about Tom. He did his work, kept his opinions to himself, and could be trusted absolutely. With Tom back, the ranch work intensified. They were moving cattle to new grazing land, preparing for the fall roundup, repairing the damage from the summer storms. Lucas worked from dawn until well after dark, falling into bed exhausted each night. But he was always aware of Zara. The way she brought them cold water in the fields, the way she had taken over the vegetable garden and coaxed it back to life, the way she laughed at Tom's terrible jokes. She was settling in, becoming part of the ranch's rhythm, and Lucas found he liked having her there far more than he should. One evening in mid-September, Lucas came back to find her on the porch, staring at the sunset. He sat down beside her, tired and dusty and content in a way he had not been in years. "It is beautiful here," she said softly. "Peaceful." "It is." He stretched his legs out. "You settling in all right, better than all right." She turned to face him, and there was something vulnerable in her expression. "Lucas, I need to tell you something about Edward." "You do not have to. I want to." She took a breath. "We were married for 6 years. At first he was kind, charming, but after the wedding he changed. He was controlling, jealous, violent when things did not go his way. I tried to leave twice. Both times he found me and brought me back. He said I would never be free of him, that I belonged to him." Lucas's hands clenched into fists, but he kept his voice steady. "What changed? Why did you run this time?" "I saw him kill his business partner over a contract dispute. Just pulled out a gun and shot him in cold blood. Then he killed the 2 witnesses who were there. He did not know I was in the next room, that I saw everything through the open door." Her voice shook. "I knew if I stayed I would be next, so I took what money I could find and ran. And he sent those men after you." "Yes." She looked down at her hands. "I am so sorry, Lucas. I have brought this danger to your door if anything happens to you because of me." "Nothing is going to happen to me." He reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away, and took her hand. Her fingers were cold. "And nothing is going to happen to you. We are in this together now." She looked at their joined hands, then up at his face. "When I said yes to marrying you, it was because I was desperate. But now I realize you have given me more than just safety. You have given me respect, trust, a place where I can breathe. I do not know how to repay that." "You do not have to repay it." He squeezed her hand gently. "Just be here. That is enough." They sat together as the stars came out, hands linked, and Lucas realized he was in trouble. This was supposed to be practical, temporary. But somewhere in the past month, he had started to care for Zara as more than just someone who needed help. He looked forward to seeing her in the morning, to hearing her voice, to the small smiles she gave him when she thought he was not looking. He was falling in love with his own wife, and he had no idea if she felt anything for him beyond gratitude. October brought cooler weather and the fall roundup. Lucas and Tom worked 18-hour days, gathering the cattle from the summer ranges, checking calves, separating out the steers to sell. Zara helped where she could, proving surprisingly adept at ranch work once she learned the basics. One afternoon, while they were working together to sort cattle in the main corral, a calf broke loose and charged directly at Zara. Without thinking, Lucas threw himself between them, catching the confused animal and wrestling it to the side. He ended up flat on his back in the dust, the wind knocked out of him, but Zara was safe. She dropped to her knees beside him, her hands on his chest. "Lucas, are you hurt?" He struggled to catch his breath, staring up at her frightened face. "I am fine, just got the air knocked out." "You idiot." She was crying now, tears streaming down her dusty face. "You could have been trampled, so could you?" He managed to sit up, and suddenly her face was very close to his. "I was not going to let that happen." For a moment they just stared at each other. Then Zara leaned forward and kissed him, soft and fierce all at once. Lucas froze in surprise, then kissed her back, one hand coming up to cup her face. She tasted like salt and dust and something sweet he could not name. When they pulled apart, both breathing hard, Zara looked as shocked as he felt. "I should not have done that." "Why not?" His heart was pounding. "We are married. A fake marriage, a piece of paper." But her hand was still on his chest, feeling his heartbeat. "Lucas, I cannot ask you to make this real. You did not sign up for that." "What if I want to?" The words came out before he could stop them, raw and honest. "What if I have wanted to for weeks now but did not know how to say it?" She searched his face. "You barely know me. I know you are smart and brave and kind. I know you work harder than anyone I have ever met. I know when you smile, really smile, it lights up everything around you." He covered her hand with his. "I know I look forward to coming home at the end of the day because you are there. Is that enough?" "Lucas." Her voice broke on his name. "I am still married to Edward. Legally, I mean. I do not even know if our marriage is valid. Were you married in California?" "Yes." "Then according to Utah law, you are a widow. California is far enough away that Edward Morrison might as well be dead." He stood up, pulling her with him. "I am not saying we have to decide everything right now, but Zara, I care about you, more than I plan to. If there is any chance you might feel the same, I would like to know." She looked up at him, and her eyes were full of hope and fear. "I do feel the same. That is what terrifies me. Every person I have ever cared about has either left me or hurt me. I do not know how to trust this." "Then we learn together." He brushed a strand of hair from her face. "One day at a time. No pressure, no expectations. We just see where it goes." She nodded slowly. "One day at a time." They kissed again, slower this time, tender and full of promise. When they pulled apart, Tom was watching from across the corral with a satisfied expression. "About damn time," he called out. "I was wondering when you two would figure it out." Zara laughed, burying her face against Lucas's chest, and he held her close, feeling like the luckiest man alive. The following weeks brought a shift in their relationship. They were still careful, still learning each other, but there was an easiness between them now. Lucas moved his things into the spare room, and they shared the main bedroom, though he insisted on taking the floor the first few nights until Zara pulled him up beside her, saying she felt safer with him close. They learned each other slowly. Lucas discovered that Zara sang when she cooked, old ballads her mother had taught her. Zara learned that Lucas was terrible at cards but had a dry sense of humor that could make her laugh until she cried. They talked late into the night, sharing stories and dreams, building something real from the foundation of their paper marriage. In early November, the California men came back. Lucas was in town when he heard the news from the sheriff. "Those bounty hunters are making another sweep. They have been at this for 3 months now. I think they will give up soon, but you should be careful." "I will. Thanks for the warning." Lucas bought his supplies quickly and headed home, pushing the horses faster than usual. He found Zara in the kitchen, and the moment she saw his face, she went pale. "They are back. They are being thorough, but they have no leads. Sheriff thinks they will give up soon." He took her hands. "But until they do, we need to be smart. If they come here, you are my wife and nothing more. We have been married since August, and you came from Salt Lake City. Your father was a banker named Miller who died 5 years ago. Can you remember that?" "Yes." She squeezed his hands. "Thank you for still protecting me. Always." The men came 2 days later, 4 of them this time. Lucas met them on the porch, rifle in easy reach. Lucas Irving. The lead man was different from before, older and meaner looking. "We are looking for a woman named Zara Morrison. We have information she might be in this area. Never heard of her. She is about 5'6", dark hair, green eyes, might be going by another name. I do not know her." Lucas kept his face impassive. "We got a tip that a dark-haired woman has been seen at your ranch." That would be my wife. We married back in August. The man's eyes narrowed. Is that so? I would like to meet this wife. Lucas wanted to refuse, but that would only make them more suspicious. Wait here. He went inside where Zara was waiting with Tom. She looked terrified but determined. I can do this. I know you can. Lucas took her hand. Just remember, you are Zara Irving from Salt Lake City. You have never been to California. They walked out together, and Lucas felt her hand tremble in his. But when she faced the men, her voice was steady. Can I help you, gentlemen? The lead man studied her intently. What is your name, madam? Zara Irving. And before you were married, Zara Miller. Where are you from? Salt Lake City originally, though I have moved around quite a bit. The man pulled out a photograph, faded and creased. Do you know this woman? Zara took the photo, and Lucas saw her hand tighten on it, but her face remained calm. No, I am sorry, I do not know her. You look a lot like her. Do I? Zara handed back the photo. I have one of those faces, I suppose. People are always saying I remind them of someone. The man was not satisfied. Lucas could see it, but without proof, there was nothing he could do. How long have you been married? 3 months. Zara leaned against Lucas, and he put his arm around her naturally. We married in August, just after I arrived in Peril. And where were you before that? I was working as a housekeeper in Salt Lake. My employer passed away, and I needed a new position. A friend told me there might be work in this area, so I came south. It was a good story, simple and believable. The man asked a few more questions, but Zara answered each one calmly and consistently. Finally, he mounted his horse, clearly frustrated. If you hear anything about Zara Morrison, there is a $1,000 reward now. 1,000? Lucas raised his eyebrows. That is quite a sum. Her husband wants her back badly. The man's gaze lingered on Zara one more time, then he turned his horse away. We will be in the area for a few more days. If you remember anything, you let us know. They watched the men ride away, and only when they were completely out of sight did Zara sag against Lucas, shaking. You were perfect, he murmured against her hair. They believed every word. The photograph, it was from my wedding day. I looked so young, so happy. She shuddered. I barely recognize that girl. She does not exist anymore. Lucas tilted her face up. You are Zara Irving now, and you are safe. She kissed him then, desperate and grateful, and he held her close, silently vowing that no one would ever take her from him. The men left Parowan a week later, moving their search north toward Salt Lake City. The sheriff brought the news himself, looking relieved. They are giving up on this area. Too much ground to cover, too few leads. I think you are clear, Lucas. That is good news. Lucas shook his hand. Thanks for keeping me informed. Alone with Zara that night, he found her sitting on the porch, staring at the stars. He sat beside her, pulling her close. They are gone, he said softly. You can breathe now, can I? She looked up at him. What if they come back? What if Edward never stops looking? Then we keep living our lives anyway. We do not let fear control us. He kissed her forehead. Besides, you are not the same woman who ran from California. You are stronger now, braver. Because of you. No, it was always in you. I just gave you a safe place to find it again. She turned in his arms, kissing him deeply. I love you, Lucas Irving. I did not mean to, and I fought against it, but I do. I love you. His heart felt too big for his chest. I love you too. From the moment you stumbled into town, I think part of me knew you were going to change everything. They made love that night, slow and tender and real. And afterward, lying in each other's arms, Lucas felt a peace he had never known. This woman, this fierce, beautiful, complicated woman, had chosen him. Not because she had to, not because she was desperate, but because she wanted to. Winter came to Utah in full force, blanketing the ranch in snow and turning the world into something pure and white. Lucas taught Zara to ride properly, and they spent hours exploring the land together, her laughter ringing out in the cold air. Tom watched them with approval, saying it was good to see the house full of life again. Christmas brought a trip to town for supplies, and a small celebration with the few friends Lucas had made over the years. Zara charmed everyone she met, and Lucas watched with pride as the women welcomed her into their circle, as the men tipped their hats and called her Mrs. Irving with genuine respect. "You fit here," he told her on the ride home, "like you were always meant to be in this place." "I was meant to be with you," she corrected. "The place is just a bonus." In January, Zara missed her monthly cycle. She told Lucas over breakfast, her voice cautious but her eyes bright with hope. "Are you sure?" He felt dizzy with joy and terror. "Not completely, but I am late, and I am never late." She took his hand. "Would that be all right, a baby, all right?" He pulled her into his lap, holding her close. "Zara, that would be more than all right. That would be everything." She cried then, happy tears that soaked his shirt, and he held her and felt the future open up before them, bright and full of possibility. The doctor confirmed it in February. A baby due in September, healthy as far as he could tell. Zara glowed with happiness, and Lucas found himself talking to her belly at night, telling their child about the ranch and the mountains and all the things they would do together. But with the joy came a shadow of worry. In March, a letter arrived addressed to Zara Morrison, forwarded through the Parowan post office. Lucas brought it to her, and they stared at it like a snake. "I do not want to open it," she whispered. "Then do not. Throw it in the fire." But she did open it, her hands shaking. Inside was a single sheet of expensive paper, and the message was brief. "I know where you are. This is not over." Lucas read it over her shoulder, rage burning through him. "He is bluffing. He has to be." "What if he is not?" Zara pressed a hand to her belly. "What if he comes here?" "Lucas, I cannot let him find out about the baby." "He will not find out because he is not getting anywhere near you." Lucas took the letter and threw it into the fire, watching it curl and blacken. "But we are not taking any chances. I am going to talk to some people, see what can be done." He rode to Cedar City the next day, to a lawyer named Patterson who had a reputation for honesty and discretion. Lucas laid out the situation, leaving nothing out, and waited while the lawyer thought it through. "Your marriage to Mrs. Irving is legal," Patterson said finally. "And if her first husband is in California and she is in Utah using a different name, he will have a hell of a time proving anything. But this is a delicate situation, Lucas. If Morrison has the connections you say he does, he could cause real trouble. What are my options?" Patterson leaned back in his chair. "There is a federal marshal in Salt Lake City, a man named Roberts. He is straight as an arrow and does not give a damn how rich or powerful someone is. If your wife is willing to testify about what she saw, Roberts might be able to build a case against Morrison." "That would mean going back, facing him." "Yes," Patterson met his eyes. "But it would also mean ending this once and for all. As long as Morrison is free, he is a threat. If he is in prison, you can both breathe easy." Lucas rode home slowly, thinking it through. By the time he reached the ranch, he knew what he had to do, but the thought of asking Zara to face her worst nightmare made him sick. She was in the garden when he returned, planting early vegetables in the cold frame he had built. She looked up with a smile that faded when she saw his face. "What is wrong?" He told her everything Patterson had said, watching her face go pale. When he finished, she sat down heavily on the garden bench, testify against him, in front of judges and lawyers and everyone. Her voice was barely audible. "I do not know if I can do that." "You do not have to." Lucas knelt in front of her. "We can just keep hiding, keep looking over our shoulders. I will protect you and the baby no matter what." But it will never end, will it? She looked at him with tears streaming down her face. He will always be out there, always searching. And one day he might find us. He might hurt you or our child. I will not let that happen. You cannot promise that. She took his face in her hands. Lucas, I ran because I was afraid. I have been afraid for so long, but I am tired of running. I am tired of letting him control my life even from hundreds of miles away. What are you saying? I am saying I want to fight back. I want to testify. I want him to pay for what he did. Her jaw set with determination. Will you come with me? Every step of the way. They left for Salt Lake City in April, leaving Tom to watch the ranch. Marshal Roberts met with them the day they arrived, a hard-faced man in his 50s with keen eyes that missed nothing. He listened to Zara's story without interruption, taking notes in a precise hand. "This is good," he said when she finished. "Very good. With your testimony, I can get a warrant for Morrison's arrest. But I need to warn you, Mrs. Irving, this will not be easy. His lawyers will tear into you. They will try to make you look like a liar or a jilted wife seeking revenge." "I know." Zara's voice was steady. "But I am not lying. I know what I saw." "Then we will make sure everyone else knows it too." Robert stood. "I will send a telegraph to California today. With any luck, we will have Morrison in custody within the week." It took 10 days. 10 days of waiting in a small Salt Lake City hotel, Zara growing more tense with each passing hour. Lucas stayed close, holding her when she woke from nightmares, talking to her about the ranch and the baby and the future they would build together. When the telegram finally came, Lucas nearly crushed it in his fist. Morrison had been arrested and was being transported to Utah to stand trial. The wheels of justice were finally turning. The trial took place in late May, in a Salt Lake City courthouse packed with spectators. Morrison sat at the defense table, impeccably dressed and radiating confidence. When his eyes found Zara, his smile was cold and possessive. But Zara did not flinch. She walked to the witness stand with her head high, placed her hand on the Bible, and swore to tell the truth. And then she told her story, every terrible detail, her voice never wavering. Morrison's lawyer tried to break her, suggesting she was mentally unbalanced, that she had imagined the murders, that she was lying to get attention. But Zara held firm, answering each question with calm precision. When the lawyer suggested she had run away because she was having an affair, Lucas nearly stood up in protest, but Zara just looked the man in the eye. "I ran away because I feared for my life. And I was right to run. My husband is a murderer, and no amount of money or influence changes that fact." The trial lasted 3 days. On the final day, the jury deliberated for less than 2 hours before returning with a guilty verdict on all counts. Morrison was sentenced to life in prison, and as they led him away in chains, he looked at Zara one last time. "You think you have won," he said coldly. "But you will never be free of me." "Never. I am already free," Zara replied. "You just have not realized it yet." Outside the courthouse, Lucas pulled her into his arms and she collapsed against him, shaking with relief and exhaustion. "It is over," he murmured. "It is really over." "Yes." She looked up at him, and her smile was brilliant through her tears. "It is over. We can go home." They returned to the ranch in early June, to a world bursting with life and color. The cattle were fat and healthy. The grass was high. And Tom greeted them with rare enthusiasm, clearly relieved to have them back. That summer was the happiest of Lucas's life. He watched Zara grow round with their child, her beauty taking on a new radiance that made his heart ache. They worked together on the ranch, making plans for the future, talking about expanding the herd and maybe buying the adjacent land when it came available. In late September, on a warm evening with the first hints of fall in the air, Zara went into labor. Lucas rode for the doctor in a panic, bringing him back at a gallop. The labor was long and difficult, and Lucas paced outside the bedroom door, praying harder than he ever had in his life. Just before dawn, he heard a baby's cry, strong and healthy. The doctor emerged, smiling. "You have a son, Lucas, and your wife did beautifully." Lucas burst into the room to find Zara propped up in bed, exhausted but glowing, holding a tiny bundle. She looked up at him with tears in her eyes. "Meet your son." Lucas took the baby carefully, staring down at the small face, the tiny fingers that gripped his thumb with surprising strength. "He is perfect. He looks like you. Poor kid." But Lucas was grinning, feeling like his heart might burst. "What should we name him?" They had discussed names for months but never settled on one. Now, looking at their son, Zara said, "James, after my father, James Irving." "James." Lucas tried it out, liking the solid sound of it. "Welcome to the world, James. You are going to love it here." The years that followed were full and rich. James grew into a sturdy, curious boy who loved the ranch as much as his father did. 2 years after James, they had a daughter they named Rose, who had her mother's green eyes and her father's stubborn streak. And 3 years after Rose came another son, Samuel, who was quiet and thoughtful and loved books as much as cattle. The ranch prospered under Zara's management and Lucas's hard work. They bought the adjacent land, then another parcel beyond that, until they had one of the largest spreads in southern Utah. Tom stayed on until he was too old to ride, then lived in a small house near the barn, spending his days whittling toys for the children and dispensing advice Lucas still valued. Zara never returned to California, and Morrison died in prison 5 years after his conviction, an event that brought Zara not joy but simply closure. She had built a new life, one filled with love and purpose, and the past held no power over her anymore. On their 20th wedding anniversary, Lucas took Zara back to the spot where he had first brought her, that first desperate day when she had hidden under a tarp in his wagon. They sat together on the hillside, watching their children play in the valley below. "You ever regret it?" Zara asked. Taking in a stranger who brought nothing but trouble, Lucas pulled her close. "Not for a single second. You brought trouble, sure, but you also brought joy and love and a life I never imagined I could have. You are the best decision I ever made. I love you, Lucas Irving. I have loved you since that first day when you chose to help me without asking why. And I love you, today, tomorrow, and every day after that." They kissed as the sun set over the Utah desert, their children's laughter ringing in the air, and Lucas thought about the frightened woman who had stumbled into his life 20 years ago. She had been running from a past she would not name, and he had asked no questions, just kept her safe. But somewhere along the way, safety had turned to trust. Trust had turned to love, and love had built this beautiful, complicated, perfect life. Years later, when their children were grown and starting families of their own, Lucas and Zara would sit on their porch in the evening, hands entwined, watching the sun paint the mountains gold. They would talk about the grandchildren who filled the house with noise and chaos, about the ranch that would pass to their sons, about the daughter who had married a banker in Salt Lake and sent long letters about her adventures. And sometimes, on quiet nights, Zara would talk about the scared woman she had been, the one who thought she would never be free. But always, she would squeeze Lucas's hand and say the same thing. "You saved my life in every way a person can be saved." And Lucas would kiss her temple and reply, "You saved mine right back." They grew old together on that ranch, surrounded by children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren who never knew about the danger that had once threatened their family. They knew only that Grandma Zara was the smartest woman in Utah, and that Grandpa Lucas would do anything for the people he loved. When Lucas died at 78, peacefully in his sleep, Zara held his hand and thanked him for every moment, every kindness, every year of the beautiful life they had built together. She followed him 6 months later, and they were buried side by side on the hill overlooking the ranch, their graves marked with simple stones. The ranch stayed in the family for generations, passed down through their children and their children's children. And on quiet summer evenings, when the wind blew just right through the valley, people swore they could hear laughter echoing across the land, the sound of two souls who had found each other against all odds and held on tight, building something lasting from the ashes of fear and pain. It was a love story that started with danger and desperation, but it ended with peace and joy. She had been running from a past she would not name. He had not asked questions, just kept her safe. And together, they had built something beautiful and enduring, a testament to the power of kindness, courage, and love in the wild heart of the American West. Their story became legend in southern Utah, told and retold until fact blurred into myth, but the truth remained simple and profound. Sometimes the greatest adventures begin with a single choice to help a stranger, and sometimes that choice changes everything.